Mercedes' performance at the Canadian Grand Prix took many people aback. For the opening 8 races of the season, they were unquestionably the 4th fastest team on the grid, comfortably ahead of customer team Aston Martin, but unable to challenge the front 3. Yet come round 9, they all of a sudden had a pole position worthy car and were capable of winning the race. Yes, they had upgrades, but this is the same Mercedes team whose previous upgrades have been as temperamental as a teething toddler. So what happened in Canada? Have Mercedes finally figured out how to work within the current technical regulations? Or was this just a one-off fluke? Let's check it out. The Canadian Grand Prix was Mercedes' best race of the season so far. In fact, you have to go all the way back to the 2023 Spanish Grand Prix, the 7th round of last season, to find a bigger points haul. The Silver Arrow's performances under the new regulations have been consistent, helping them secure strong finishes in the Constructors' Championship, but they've never been regular podium challengers. Their problems can be squarely blamed on their car development. While they've produced decent enough cars in 2022, 23 and 24, they've never really been very happy with what they have, and have never looked capable of improving on what they have either. They have been podium contenders on the right occasions, but never favourites for a race win and certainly never a title contender. 2024 looked like it was going to be an even worse season than the previous 2, but in Canada, something changed for Mercedes. Having brought a new front wing in Monaco, Mercedes introduced further upgrades in Canada. The biggest upgrade on Lewis Hamilton's car was the heavily revised front wing, which he only received in Montreal as Mercedes had only one piece available in the previous round. The Brackley-based outfit also altered the front suspension of the W15. The track rod and lower wishbone forward leg were realigned, which aimed to improve the flow conditioning. The team stated that the changes were made to reduce boundary layer losses and hence improve the flow to the floor. The unique characteristics of the Montreal track saw Mercedes increase the brake duct inlet size in order to achieve a bigger mass flow to the disc, which in turn increases heat rejection from the disc to the air. At first glance, that might not sound like a huge amount of change, but the front wing is the most important part of an F1 car. It dictates how everything can function behind it, because it dictates what the airflow over the rest of the car will look like. Of course, Mercedes have been bringing new upgrades to the car for the last 2.5 years, as well as completely overhauling the car a few times for good measure. None of them ever seemed to have much of an impact before, or if they did, there were still problems. So what changed this time? It's not just the solid result in Montreal, where the W15 was competitive on all 3 days and in all conditions. It's the fact that the signs of progress have been there for weeks. Unlike previous unpredictable flashes in the pan that would disappear just as quickly, Mercedes itself could see the good result coming. We're 3 races into something that has been a progressively improving car, Mercedes technical director James Allison told F1's Beyond the Grid podcast. It just happens that we put it on pole at this quite unusual track, but I think that the things that have given us that opportunity have been coming for a few races. They're just rather unheralded when you're close but no cigar. There were upgrades in Miami and a massive package in Imola, including revised floor and brake ducts, plus a new rear and beam wing, before Monaco where the new front wing was fitted to Russell's car, and then the changes in Canada. Mercedes have essentially replaced almost every single piece of aero-affecting bodywork over the last few races, and in Canada it seemed to come together. Like James Allison said, they finally got that cigar. The steady stream of upgrades, which culminated in the improvement in performance in Canada, stems from the team fundamentally reconsidering not the car itself, but the way it conceptualizes the design process. The way we had found of working in the previous set of rules was very effective for the previous set of rules, Allison explained. I don't just mean the way we'd shaped the front wing or the particular way that we handled the tyre squirt at the rear of the car. I mean the way that the key engineering groups interacted with one another in the team. The aerodynamics with vehicle dynamics with the track, and track with both of those two groups. Mercedes had won 8 straight Constructors' titles with ease, and until 2021, absolutely dominated the Drivers' Championship as well. Clearly, the process that they used over those years to design an F1 car was incredibly effective. However, Allison went on to say that a lack of self-criticism, perhaps stemming from the no-blame culture that Mercedes uses, meant that they weren't able to recognize the ineffectiveness of their old design process under the new technical regulations. The demands of ground effect aerodynamics had challenged the technical team structure to breaking point. The cars are all so uncomfortably near to the ground in this set of rules that suspension and aerodynamics have to be really tightly bound up with one another, James Allison said. In the old world, they needed to be cousins, but they didn't need to be really properly embedded in each other's worlds. Now, they're just completely in bed, and the interaction has to be very tight. Mercedes' struggles over the last few seasons and their realization of what they were doing wrong shows just how challenging the changing regulations of Formula One can be for the teams. They aren't just drawing new cars and testing new parts. The most fundamental levels of the process, how they think about the design and the structure they design the car in, is being tested, and if you can't adapt, you collapse. Mercedes' frustrations over why their cars haven't been working as expected have been made very public. Complaints from the drivers and senior members of the team have been very public for the whole world to hear, but the realization that their issues were so much deeper was painful for the team to realize. Allison finished by describing the realization as, "This is more of an 'oh god, how could we have been so dumb' type of moment, where you see the path forward and you should have seen it sooner." So where do Mercedes go now? Can they maintain the performance levels they showed in Canada and create a 4-team battle for podium positions? Or is this going to be like Singapore 2023 or Brazil 2022, just a flash in the pan? Well, with plans for more developments, including a new floor for the next race in Spain, the Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff admitted that there was a sense that his squad was finally moving away from the difficulties it had in the past of improvement not delivering what had been hoped for. "I think definitely, since Imola, we've taken the right steps and put parts on the car that are working, something that we were struggling with in the past couple of years," he said. Now, directionally, we seem to be adding performance every weekend, and we have new stuff coming also, new parts in Barcelona that should help us, so I would very much hope that we can continue this positive trajectory. The Spanish Grand Prix this weekend will be a real test for Mercedes. After their 1-2 finish in Brazil in 2022, they finished 5th and had a retirement in the following race. After a strong showing in Singapore, which was spoiled slightly by George Russell's very late mistake, they could only manage 5th and 7th in the following race. If Mercedes can at least look like podium contenders in the mix with the top 3 teams, then there could be some belief that they might have finally turned a corner and started to get a grasp for how these new cars work. However, the team is not getting carried away with one good performance, as they have done in the past. Despite the improved showings in Monaco and Canada, team boss Toto Wolff believes it's the Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya that will be the real test of this new Mercedes car. This is due to the fast, flowing nature of the Spanish circuit, as well as not being a circuit that requires bouncing across the curbs, all of which are very different characteristics from the last 2 races. The Mercedes boss said that the characteristics the Barcelona circuit demands have not been Mercedes' strength so far this year, meaning a strong performance this weekend would underline significant progress in improving the W15. Barcelona will provide a good test of our progress, Wolff said. It has a mix of fast, medium, and low-speed corners, a long straight, and plenty of elevation change. Tracks that contain this wide speed range have been a weakness of ours so far this year. This weekend will therefore provide another opportunity to evaluate our progress through our recent updates, and we hope to build on the positive momentum from Montreal. All this talk is great, and everything Mercedes is saying about changing their development structure sounds incredibly positive, but the real proof has to be seen on track. A good showing in Barcelona, even if that doesn't include a podium finish, would prove to the world that they are really ready to return to the team they once were. But a weak weekend with some low-point finishes and a lack of performance will be devastating to a fan base desperate to see something positive from Mercedes. Do you think Mercedes' new design structure is working? Or was the Canadian performance just a one-off? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, and until next time, drive safe and bye for now.